Here's how to tie the anchor hitch. Start by taking the end of the rope and going 2 times around the object. Now take the end and go over and underneath both of these loops. And tighten it as much as you can before proceeding next. Then take the end and again go around the standing end, and this time tuck it underneath itself over here, creating another half hitch. It's essentially a very strong hitch that is very unlikely to untie even with heavy or intermittent loads. It's actually very similar to the round turn and 2 half hitches knot, except here the first half hitch goes underneath both of these loops, making it more reliable and stronger. Use it anytime you need to attach something heavy to a pipe, a pole, or something similar. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie the timber hitch knot. Use this knot whenever you need to pull heavy logs because it grips them very well, and the standing end exits right in the direction of the log, so it's very easy to pull. You can also use it to bundle up a bunch of smaller kindling to bring back to your fire. Start by taking the end of the rope and placing it parallel to the log. After that, you need to go around the log. Then go underneath the standing end and underneath itself. And now you need to continue tying around this strand another 2 or 3 times. Tighten it as much as you can and you're pretty much good to go. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie a double figure 8 loop knot. Sometimes this knot is also referred to as the bunny ears, the dog-eared loop, or the super 8 knot. Start by creating a long bight. Take the end of it and go under, up, under, and finally through the last loop. Now go back, but not all the way, and pull the end of the loop over the whole knot. And finally, to finish the knot, pull these 2 loops. To confirm that it's correct, there should be 2 parallel ropes on each side and 3 parallel ones at the bottom. This knot is very strong, and by pulling each eye separately, the other one doesn't tighten. If you want to adjust the size on each of these loops, then you need to readjust this string. For example, you can make one of them larger and one of them smaller. The figure 8 double loop knot is often used in climbing for attaching to 2 anchor points. But it's also used in search and rescue because you can put your feet through here and it works as an emergency seat. If you want to learn more about other useful knots, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Here's how to tie the Clove hitch, which is one of the most useful knots to know in everyday situations. To tie it, take the end of the rope and go around the post on the right side, then go around it once again, but this time on the left side, and finally tug the end of the rope underneath this strand over here and tighten it. But also make sure to dress the knot neatly together so that there's no slack when you pull on it. It isn't the most secure hitch, but it's pretty strong and you can tie it very easily. But what's even better, you can untie it very easily when you don't need it anymore. If you want to make it more secure, you can tie another half hitch around it here in the front. Instead of a half hitch, a lot of people like to do another clove hitch on the top, but I found that the bottom clove hitch usually tends to seize up pretty badly if you do that. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie the super Munter hitch. First, tie a regular Munter hitch by going through the carabiner, then around the lowering end, and finally back through the carabiner but over to the other side. And to tie the super Munter, again go around the lowering end and through the carabiner, but this time exiting over to the other side. Because of this additional step, it has more friction compared to the regular Munter hitch. This is really useful when you need to lower something very heavy. For example, in search and rescue, or when lowering very heavy climbing gear. One issue with the regular Munter hitch is that as you descend, the rope tends to twist and turn and sometimes even gets stuck. This doesn't happen with the super Munter hitch because the additional step kind of evens everything out and the rope doesn't twist and turn anymore. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Here's how to tie the Blake's hitch knot. Take the end of the rope and go around the main line 4 times in the upwards direction. 2, 3, 4. So you have 4 loops over here. Now you have to take the end of the rope and go through the bottom 2 loops. So through one and through the second one, so that the tag end exits over to the side here between the 4 loops. But make sure to tighten and dress it properly so that in the end it looks like this, to avoid any slippage. It's usually used by arborists to climb up trees because if you pull on it, it grips very well, but if you put your hand over here, it slides up very easily. Usually a carabiner is tied in over here with a midline clove hitch by creating 2 of these loops, then putting the other one behind the first one and putting your carabiner through both of them. So essentially what you do is clip in your climbing harness over here and then slowly climb up or descend the rope using this slide and grip knot. It is a fairly secure knot, but I would personally tie in another stopper knot on the working end to avoid it from slipping through over here. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie the double fisherman's knot. It's used to create a very strong connection between 2 ropes of similar diameters. Start by placing the ends of each rope next to each other. Put your thumb on the first rope and go around it with the second one. Now go around it once again, this time forming an X. Finally, take out your thumb and pass the working end through both of these loops. This is called a double overhand stopper knot, and you can check that it's tied correctly by making sure that the strands are parallel on one side and forming an X on the other one. Now form another double overhand stopper knot, only in the other direction and with the other rope. To finish the knot, pull on both ends of the rope. This connection is so strong that it can be used for life-threatening situations. For example, you can connect 2 shorter ropes and then use it for rock climbing. Just make sure to leave the ends at least a few inches long to account for slippage, because as you tighten the knot, the ends can shorten a bit, especially under very heavy loads. It's a bit hard to untie, but not impossible to do with a bit of patience. If you want to learn other useful knots, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Here's how to tie the European death knot, other called the flat overhand bend or the offset overhand bend. Place the 2 ropes next to each other, form a loop, and then take the ends of this rope and go through this loop. It's really important to check that none of these ropes are crossing each other and to tighten the knot very carefully by pulling both of the ropes together and then separately each one. To check that it's tied correctly, make sure that it forms 2 sets of parallel ropes on one side and 1 set on the other. When used in critical applications like climbing, you have to leave a rather long end after the knot, at least 2 hand lengths or 30 centimeters in size. That's because when pulled with a lot of force, this knot can capsize and roll, and the leftover rope accounts for it. It isn't a very strong way of connecting 2 ropes, but it's very commonly used in climbing because it can support the body weight of a climber. When rappelling, this knot is very unlikely to get stuck on rocks because both of the ropes enter from the same direction. To learn other useful knots, subscribe and check out our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Here's how to tie the double Alpine butterfly loop. It's super useful to know because it creates 2 very strong loops in the middle of the rope, which can be used as anchor points or to tension the rope sideways. And the best part about them is that you can use each loop separately or keep them completely empty, and the knot won't unravel by itself when it's pulled. Wrap the rope around your hand 1 full turn, leaving a large gap in between them. Now do 2 additional turns downwards in between them. Now take the 2 top loops and go over and underneath the 2 bottom strands that form an X. Take out your hand and pull on the ends to finish the knot. But before using it, make sure to tighten and dress it very tightly so that the loops don't come undone when they're pulled. To learn other useful knots, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Here's how to tie the heaving line knot. Start by creating an S shape near the end of the rope with the rope end sitting on the right side and left pretty long. Now take the rope end and go through this top loop, then go around these two strands, and then go around all three strands. Continue by doing multiple turns around all three strands and make sure to do them tightly and place them neatly next to one another. When you reach the desired length, simply pass the end of the rope through this bottom loop like this. Now you need to tighten this bottom loop, and you do that by pulling this top loop until the bottom one disappears. And finally, you can tighten this loop by pulling on the standing end. This knot is very useful to know if you need to throw one end of the rope around a tree branch or something similar, because it adds a lot of weight to the end of the rope. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie the 2 half hitches knot. Start by taking the end of the rope and going around the support. Then go around the standing end and through this loop formed over here, and tighten the knot. And then proceed by tying another identical half hitch in the same direction, and finally tighten it. It isn't the most secure knot, but it does work well with most types of non-slippery ropes. You can use it pretty much any time you need to attach a rope to a ring or a post. But if you want a stronger knot, then it can be improved in 2 ways. The first way is to do one additional turn around the post before tying the 2 half hitches. This makes it much stronger. And in this case, it's called the round turn and 2 half hitches knot. The other one is to just tie another half hitch after the second one. In this case, it's called the 3 half hitches knot. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie both versions of the slip knot, otherwise called the slipped overhand knot. If used for knitting or creating a snare, then tie it using the first technique. Create a pretty large loop and then tie a simple overhand knot around the standing end. So the main idea behind it is that if you pull on the standing end, the loop will tighten itself and keep tight around the object. But if you want to create a quick release stopper knot, then use the second technique. Simply create a bight at the end of the rope and then with it tie a simple overhand knot. This will act as a stopper knot, so you can tie it after other knots to make them more secure. And if you want to untie it, simply pull on the end and the knot will come undone by itself very easily. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie the bowline knot. It's one of the most popular and useful knots to know because it creates a secure, fixed loop near the end of the rope. Start by creating a small loop near the end of the rope. Now take the end of the rope and go through it from the back side. Now go around the standing end and back through the loop to finish the knot. Make sure to tighten it very well and to keep the end rather long to account for slippage. The bowline is super useful to know because it's very easy to remember, it's secure, and it doesn't jam when loaded with heavy weight. You can use it for attaching a rope to a fixed object, to create a grab handle, or in a wide variety of other applications. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.